Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Having been duly elected as an officer of the society,
Having been duly elected as an officer of the society,
I do hereby promise to uphold its ideals.
I do hereby promise to uphold its ideals.
I pledge myself to do all in my power
I pledge myself to do all in my power
to perform faithfully the duties assigned to me,
to perform faithfully the duties assigned to me,
and to serve fellow journalists,
and to serve fellow journalists,
whether of the society or not,
whether of the society or not,
and so endeavor
to
enrich the profession with the ideals of the Society of Professional Journalists.
with the ideals of the Society of Professional Journalists.
This I promise and pledge myself to perform.
This I promise and pledge myself to perform.
Thank you. Congratulations on all of us and as our new leader of the Society of Professional Journalists.
Thank you. There's some tough acts to follow there, but I have a few thoughts on my mind. An editor once opined, as editors will, in a time of deep skepticism towards the media, that it was imperative for journalists to make their voice one of energy rather than of hatred. And he wrote, if we take pride in objectivity rather than in rhetoric, in humanity rather than in mediocrity, then we will preserve many things and we will not be without merit. That editor was the writer and philosopher Albert Camus, and the time was 1944, just a week after Paris was liberated from Nazi occupiers. In his moment, Camus understood the endemic public mistrust of journalists, because after all, not a few had been collaborators, and the political divisions appeared to be insurmountable. Our fight to maintain high journalistic standards today, amid assaults on our credibility and economic pressures, is not a new one. In each age and across the globe, journalists have been combating government propaganda, roadblocks to public information, interference with news distribution, and even trials and executions for exposing the truth. These battles still rage on as far off as Myanmar, where two of our colleagues have been arbitrarily imprisoned, and as near as Washington, D.C., where the president refers to the media as the enemy of the American people. Demagoguery isn't new, it just takes on a new face in each age. Our challenge as journalists is to rise above the rhetoric, to use our craft and reveal the humanity of the voiceless rather than the mediocrity of the talking heads. That is why the Society of Professional Journalists will continue to support reporters who are stymied at every turn with lawsuits and endless freedom of information requests. That is why we'll keep sharpening the skills of all of our members, but especially freelancers and journalism students who don't benefit from on-the-job training. That's why we'll enlighten the public about how we do our jobs through public speaking engagements, editorials, and our innovative new program, Press for Education. That's why we'll push harder for diversity in coverage by media outlets that reflect the communities they cover. And above all, that's why we'll keep educating the public and our fellow journalists about our ethics code. This is the gold standard by which mutual trust between the public and the press can be earned. As news gatherers, we need to be rigorously even-handed in our coverage and leave rhetoric to the opinion pages. We mustn't lose sight of the diverse spectrum of opinions in our society and succumb to the phony dichotomies of reality TV. And we must be unswerving in our support of free speech. Just as citizens living in a free society have the right to be informed, those same citizens, no matter what their viewpoints, have the right to be heard. As American journalists, we are privileged. Although the First Amendment is under constant pressure, it stands tall, and by association, so do we while conducting our everyday reporting. This is far from the case in other oppressed parts of the world where journalists live in fear that they might be jailed or even murdered for exposing wrongdoing. We have traditionally enjoyed real freedom of the press, unparalleled in the history of the world. We must not take this for granted, but rather set shining examples to inspire our international colleagues who risk their liberty and their lives in simply doing their jobs. Yet it's hard to deny that anti-press rhetoric has been rising in many democracies, including our own. At a time when our reporting is being overwhelmed by a steady digital stream of opinion, publicity, rumor, and deceit, our country becomes more polarized, but we must rise above partisan politics. We mustn't retreat into defensiveness. Let the restrained response we give to those who label us fake show who has the real moral high ground. As the largest journalism association in the land, SPJ has advocated for the free flow of information for generations. We supported legislation in 2016 to strengthen the Freedom of Information Act, and we will push to see that this is fully implemented, creating a consolidated online portal to request information from any federal agency. We see a real need for legislation currently sitting in Congress that would make it a federal crime to assault a journalist reporting in the field. And we will keep pressing the government not to use public information officers as gatekeepers to limit our access to sources, and not to pursue whistleblowers who sound the alarm about government waste and wrongdoing. One thing we could be better at is communicating our goals to our members and to the public at large. SPJ signs on to countless legal briefs and supports journalists in peril, yet we do very little to tell the public about this advocacy. If Americans understood what it takes sometimes to get the story, they might be better able to discern the difference between reporting and propaganda. And as I stated when I ran for this office a year ago, I'd like to see SPJ form closer partnerships with other press freedom organizations. SPJ should be the go-to press group for journalists from across the globe when they think of freedom of information and democracy. We can learn from the expertise of other groups, for example, those that specialize in foreign reporting or covering trauma or digital journalism, while spreading the word about our esteemed code of ethics and our fight to improve access to public information. I hope to make these partnerships a cornerstone of the coming year, because we amplify our message when we speak with one voice.